Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 Mexico Open Initial Research Show. What a fantastic week that the Genesis was. Let's start with several shout-outs, or at least a few shout-outs, shall we? First off, Darnell let me know that he hit the outright on Ludwig Aubert mid-tournament, live betting. So congratulations, Darnell, on jumping onto the Ludwig train during the tournament. Another shout out to give is Gabe. Gabe took down at least one DFS contest that I know of. Also let me know that he had a very solid week. So congratulations, Gabe, on all of your success, especially in the DFS market. And the third, as you can probably tell from the thumbnail, is for yours truly. I mentioned all last Wednesday night. I was all over Ludwig Aubert. He was my first click for the week in terms of an outright. So it feels really, really good to get the first outright across the finish line in 2025 after a couple of close calls earlier this year. So everything was great about the Genesis. I cashed 50% of my lineups plus hit the Ludwig outright. Again, it was just a fantastic week, and I hope you joined in all of the success that not only myself, but a lot of the members of the community also had this past week for the Genesis. And if you had success, please let me know in chat, in the comments, reach out to me on social media. I would love to be able to shout out others that are a part of the community who have success week in and week out. But this is our first big week of 2025, and we're going to try to keep the momentum going for the Mexico Open. I'm quite excited. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out fantasynational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally on Mondays I post research regarding the tournament of that week. Some course information, patterns of previous winners. Didn't do anything for the Genesis since it had changed venues to Torrey Pines. But I plan on posting some stuff tomorrow regarding the Mexico Open. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. So if you are a follower of me over at X, you would have seen the Ludwig outright on the betting card. You would have seen all the Ludwig that I was playing in my lineups. You would have also seen some of the Rory that was on there. Adam Scott, who didn't turn out great. So the good and the bad. But if you want to see the wagers that I'm making week in and week out, the players that I'm using most often in my lineups, go give me a follow over at X. And then lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle is in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. Really can't recommend it enough. He has added to that with a deluxe edition that debuted last week. So you really are missing out on a lot of great information, a lot of great informative, entertaining stuff going on there. So make sure you're subscribed to his article. It is free to do, by the way. And show him some support. Follow him over on social media. And then lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. Again, I want to hear from you all. Let me know of any success that you had for the Genesis. Would love to be able to shout out more members of the community that had some success this past week. And then moving to the Mexico Open, how much do you know of Vedanta? Who do you think the favorite is this week? Pretty weak field, a little foreshadowing or spoilers. Who do you think is well equipped to play Vedanta well? What do you think plays well here? All of that. So feel free to jump in the chat, make your opinions heard. If you're not able to catch the show live, jump into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. Let's get into it. After our first big week of 2025, we're going to try to keep the momentum. Let's do our initial research for the 2025 Mexico Open. And as we always do on a Sunday evening, we're going to start with the GCSAA tournament fact sheet. And as you can see, we are what they are now calling Vedanta World. It's the same course, Vedanta Vallarta. This is on the far west coast of Mexico. It is on the peninsula that extends southward from San Diego. I should know it. I just don't off the top of my head. But this is situated pretty much right on the Pacific Ocean. We have been at Vedanta now 4 years. This will be the 4th year. We have seen Vedanta for 3 years. Sorry, let me center this camera, and I believe something might be in the way in the background. Let me move that for everybody. Apologies. Vedanta is originally a Greg Norman design. It was renovated by Greg Norman in 2022, right before the start of the tournament, to make it more PGA tournament ready, if you will. Added some tee boxes, some bunkerage, all of that. Vedanta is a pretty long par 71, and it's a very unique par 71 in the sense that we have 5 par 3s and 4 par 5s. In the back 9 is very unique setup, as we have 3 par 3s, 3 par 4s, and 3 par 5s on the back 9 alone at Vedanta. So this is a par 71, a non-traditional par 71. 5 par 3s, 4 par 5s. Long course, little over 7,400 yards. And it plays to its true yardage. This does not, this sits at sea level, and there's not a whole lot of elevation change throughout the course. So it's going to play to its true yardage. Like most Caribbean style events, we are on Paspalum greens. And the interesting thing about the Mexico Open, at least Vedanta, this is the only course we've ever gotten Paspalum putting data. So what little data we have this week will apply directly to this course. So we are on Paspalum throughout the entirety of the course, specifically Platinum Paspalum. The rough is kept very, very short, not very penalizing at all. The fairways are extremely wide. This is a true resort style course, and thanks to Gabe in his article for giving some more course information than what is listed here on the GCSA tournament fact sheet. This is a true resort style course, so big greens, large fairways, forgiving fairways. It says 13 holes with water in play. That's quite a bit deceiving, as for professionals, really water comes into play on maybe 7 or 8, and that's stretching it a little bit. You see the acreage of fairway 40. That's quite a bit, considering Torrey has 24 acres. So that in of itself, you can see just how wide the fairways are. Quite a bit of rough, but again, not very penalizing. 13 holes with water in play. We don't have any green metrics, if you will, talking about the size of the greens or the stimp. I can tell you these greens are large. They generally are pretty large in Caribbean style events. I believe some of the biggest greens are at another Mexican event, the Worldwide Technologies, El Cardenal de Monte, Tigers course, I believe, have some of the largest greens on tour. So the greens here at Vedanta are going to be very large. As I noted, course, the back 9 features 3 3s, 3 4s, and 3 5s. You see the 3 previous winners: John Rahm, the inaugural at 17, Tony Finau won at 24 under, Knapp last year at 19 under. Finau, quite a bit of an outlier, and he won by several shots. So, as much as a lot of the Caribbean style events do get easy and are birdie fests, I don't think it's correct to assume this is going to be a birdie fest. Now, the winner will probably get to 20 under, but I don't think many players will get into the upwards of teens in terms of score. The course is long, and wind does play a decent factor that does keep the scoring down. You see the yardage here. It's the 4th longest, at least in total or raw yardage. Actually 3rd technically, behind Torrey Pines, who's listed twice. We don't have any green size numbering here our first tournament on Paspalum, our first tournament in Mexico. There is a very quick look at Vedanta from a GCSA tournament fact sheet standpoint. We'll move to Fantasy National, and the field has drawn a few big players over the years. Obviously, John Rahm winning the inaugural. Tony Finau has played all 3 years prior. This year, the tournament is going to take a massive hit in terms of quality of field. Finau is not returning. In fact, nobody inside the top 25 in OWGR as of yesterday or early today is here. Matt McNeely is one of your bigger names. Akshay Bhatia, another big name. Rasmus and Nikolai Højgaard are here. Stefan Jaeger. Those are your headliners this week at Vedanta. So a very, very weak field, lacking in terms of household names on the PGA Tour. We have had one field change already. Keith Mitchell originally had committed to playing. He has withdrawn since his commitment. So you see, at least from 2024 and 2025, some of the top performers in the field in terms of total performance. But let's go ahead and go to the course breakdown here in Fantasy National. And we see that Vedanta has several long par fours, 498, 520, 496, 475. So the length of the course really does come into these long par fours, par 505, several longer par fours. There are a couple of easier ones as well, like par 4 7th here, measuring 297, plays to 2/3 of a shot under par. Just an extremely easy hole. Hey, good evening, Phil. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated, brother. I got crushed this week, 64% Sungjae. I knew you were high on him Wednesday night. I certainly played him a little bit, but as you can probably tell from the thumbnail, the title, I myself had a fantastic week. I had all of the Ludwig Aubert outright and in my lineups. I cashed 50% of the lineups that I played. It was just a fantastic week. I hate to hear that you weren't able to share in the success, but we're going to try, and at least I'm going to try and keep the momentum and help you turn it around this week for Mexico. Good to see you in chat this evening. Sungjae he did not play well. After top fiving the Farmers, missing the cut in a very, very limited cut event is going to tank your week, especially when you have that much of him. But looking forward to Vedanta. Appreciate it. Thank you. I've had a couple of close calls with Jaeger at the Sony, Sam Stevens at the Farmers. It feels really good to get that first outright across the finish line in 2025. So a little bit of a sigh of relief, a monkey off the back, whatever adage you want to put in there, because my confidence was shaking a little bit after a couple of really, really disappointing weeks. So feels good to get back onto the train, if you will. So a few scoring opportunities around Vedanta. I mentioned the short par 4, drivable par 4, plays to 2/3 of a shot under par. The par 5s, even though they are long, they are scoreable. 4/10 of a shot under par, quarter of a shot, 4/10, half a shot under par. So these par 5s do get taken advantage of, but there are several, and I mean several, very, very difficult holes around Vedanta, which keeps this place from being a birdie fest. For example, this par 4/10, not even the longest par 4 on the course. Par 4, 475, plays to 4/10 of a shot over par. Almost a third bogey rate, 7.5% bogey or double bogey rate. The extremely long par 4, 16th, 505, 3/10 of a shot. Quarter of a shot over par on this long par 3. Quarter of a shot, 1,500. So good mix of gettable holes and holes where you hold on for dear life around Vedanta, and that's why I'm going to stress it all week. Even though these fairways are extremely wide, these greens are extremely large, it is not a birdie fest. It's easy, but it's not a birdie fest because there are big scores to be had if a player is not careful. Moving to strokes gained by shot type. This is a ball striking course with the length. The off the tee, I'm surprised for the top 10s, is as high as it is. I'm imagining distance is a big part of this because accuracy is really not the most mandatory around Vedanta because these fairways are so wide. So a lot of players are going to be hitting or adding to their fairways hit statistics. Now, if a player does miss the fairway, they're in deep trouble because there's very little rough, and then you get into the native jungle and desert that is surrounding Vedanta. So I would assume most of this off the tee is in distance, but that's for your top 10s. You're moving up the leaderboard, your top 5s. Putting starts to really take over. You see it around the green doesn't really matter all that much. And for our winners, surprisingly, the putting falls off. It is a ball striking course. It's simply what it is. This is a resort style course. It is very, very easy. It is made for regular amateurs like you and I if we were to go visit Vedanta to play and have success. So for professionals, it is pretty easy, especially off the tee. The challenge coming into the greens, just because they're so large. But you can see the just sheer amount of ball striking in the strokes gained by shot types. We look at strokes gained by hole by par. Remember, even though this is a par 71, there are 5 par 3s and your full allotment of 4 par 5s around Vedanta. So par 5s taking precedent there. But look at the lead as you rise the leaderboard. The par 5s actually become the least among the top 5s. And then for your winners, it's about even with par 4s, but these par 3s are very important because there's 5 of them around here. And they generally have they're a decent mix of scoreable and hold on for dear life. Par 5, the par 3 5th, place are right at par. Par 3 9th, little over par. Right at par, and then the par 3 17th, quarter of a shot over par. So if you can sneak a few birdies around these par 3s, you're going to be gaining a little bit on the field. And then if you get 4 pars on 17 throughout the week, you're gaining on the field. So these par 3s are going to be pretty important. It'll be interesting to see when we go to the data dive tomorrow to see the data behind that and how much strokes gained and where they're coming from and all that. Hole composition. We do have 2 shorter par 3s, at least by PGA Tour standards, and then an even split otherwise. 1 mid-length, 1 long, and 1 very long par 3. We do have a drivable par 4, a couple of short par 4s. The majority of the par 4s are pretty long, from 450 to 500. We do have 2 par 4s that are over 500 yards. And then the par 5s, we've got 1 very short par 5 that is the 18th at 548. We have 1 mid-length and then 2 long par 5s over 600. Approach shot distribution, 40 to 41% of the approach shots around Vedanta come from 200 plus. You have your 4 par 5s, and you have just so many long approaches thanks to just the sheer length of these par 4s. So I'm quite interested to see, especially tomorrow on the data dive, the long approach proximities, see how much they play a factor. Historic cut line has been the same every single year. The cut has been -1 every single year, all 3 years that Vedanta has been in play, or at least has been seen on the PGA Tour. Again, -1 would not be easy. That would actually be average in terms of difficulty. If we jump quickly over to the tournament, the historic conditions. Like last year, the first 2 rounds played average and then got easy over the weekend. Much the same in 2023. 2022 is mostly average. So again, not a birdie fest around Vedanta. Not a birdie fest. You have 22% birdies. You have only 14% bogeys, but this doubles bar is quite visible. There are several doubles to be had if a player is wayward, especially off the tee. But generally, you'll see winning scores like we've seen 17, 24, and 19. I would venture to say it'll probably be around 20 under. Driving accuracy, quite a bit higher here. Yeah, I can't say quite a bit. It is higher here than the tour average. Again, these fairways are extremely wide, very forgiving. But if a player misses them, they're in deep trouble. And distance, huge factor here. I mean, guys just grip and rip driver throughout Vedanta. It's mandatory, kind of like Torrey with all the long par 4s and par 5s here. And guys can freewheel it a little bit more considering the fairways are so wide. Greens, these are extremely large, so a little bit higher than the average tour event. It's surprising that they're not a whole lot. It's not a whole lot. They're not hit at a lot higher rate than what they are. My guess is because players are coming in with such longer irons, would be my guess. Scrambling, a little bit easier here than the tour average. 3 putts, a little less. Even though these greens are so large, it doesn't seem like they're very complicated to putt, seemingly. In proximity, again, with the large greens, you can see just how further away players are on average when they hit the green in regulation. There's a look at Vedanta in terms of a scorecard and graphical view. We'll come back to the players in the field this week, and we're going to start taking a look at a couple of different metrics here. First thing we're going to do, let's take a look at long courses. Vedanta, definitely long course. So on long courses, going back to the beginning of last year, your top performers in the field this week are Sam Stevens, Hayden Springer, Akshay Bhatia, Justin Lauer, Ben Griffin, Matty Schmid, Chan Kim, Chris Ventura, Norman Xiong, and Mav McNeely. Keith Mitchell has withdrawn. That's why he is starred. He originally committed to playing, has withdrawn. Kevin Tway is an alternate. That is why he is starred. Mitchell is officially not playing. Kevin Tway is not in the field as of yet, unless there are several people who back out. So there's a look at your top long course performers. Keeping this metric, or this filter on, let's take a look at off the tee. We saw in the course breakdown just how much off the tee mattered for our winners, our top 10s, all of that. So your top off the tee players on long courses since the beginning of last year: Kevin Yu, Rico Hoey, Alejandro Tosti, Aldrich Pokegater, had a very, very successful Farmers, another long course. Matt McNeely, Isaiah Salinda, Jesper Svensson, Taylor Moore, Vincent Norman, Tim Whiting. Definitely don't want to skip approach. So your top approach players in the field this week, I am going to narrow this down to just 2025. Your top approach players in the field this week: Andrew Putnam, Jackson Suber, Sam Ryder, Nikolai Højgaard, Chan Kim, Matt McNeely, David Skins, Rasmus Højgaard, Charlie Hoffman, and Rikuya Hoshino. And then lastly, we will take a look at some paspalum putting. Just understand that this is all from the Mexico Open. We go 2024, 2023, and 2022. This is all supposedly from the Mexico Open. You see, like the Worldwide Technologies, we get, that's clearly paspalum, but there's no shot link data. So we don't get the individual statistics. So any putting is straight from Vedanta. So another way to say this is your top performers at Vedanta putting-wise have been Ben Silverman, Davis Riley, Aaron Baddeley, Akshay Bhatia, Matt McNeely, Henrik Norlander, Patrick Rogers, Sammy Valimaki, Ben Griffin, Emiliano Grillo, and Chan Kim. A couple other things we can take a quick look at. Absolutely want to look at proximity, particularly 200 plus, considering 40 to 41% of the approach shots here at Vedanta come from that range. So this is going to be a very small sample size. I'm just trying to keep it consistent with other metrics that I've looked at. So just in 2025, your top performers on 200 plus approach shots: Eric Van Rooyen, Charlie Hoffman, Jackson Suber, Philip Knowles. It's only one round, so take that with quite a bit of a grain of salt. Akshay Bhatia, Norman Xiang, Lonto Griffin, Sam Ryder, Danny Walker, Max McGreevy, and Tim Whiting. The only other thing we might want to take a look at, let's take a look at just par threes, since they are going to have an emphasis this week with 5 of them. And we'll go to, we'll just do 2025. Your top par 3 performers early on this year: Sam Ryder, Brian Campbell, Justin Lauer, Ben Coles, Max McGreevy, Matt McNeely, Takumi Kanaya, Putnam, Nikolai Højgaard, Rikuya Hoshino, and Antoine Rosner. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the tournament history of the strokes gained total page view. Again, this has only been played 3 years: 2022, 23, and 24. Our winners have been John Rahm, Tony Finau, Jake Knapp. Jake Knapp, our defending champion, so he is returning. But neither John Rahm, for obvious reasons, he's at LIV. Tony Finau has decided not to play this year. Your top strokes gained total performer at Vedanta in the 3 years that is returning is Patrick Rogers. He's got 3 top 10s here. Nothing inside the top 5, but he's just been a very, very consistent, solid performer around Vedanta. Stefan Jaeger, a couple of top 20s and a top 3, a podium finish. He's been very good here. Grillo, good. Grayson Sigg, Carson Young, C.T. Pan. Bhatia has a solo 4th from 2 years ago. Sammy Valimaki, runner-up to Jake Knapp last year. Let's see some other notable players here. Harry Hall, 2 for 2. Eric Van Rooyen, 2 for 2. Trying to find players who have played it multiple times. Aaron Rai, 2 for 3. Top 25, top 20, and a miscut. Alex Smalley, top 10 his debut and then has missed the cut twice. McNeely, 2 for 2. Lonto Griffin, 3 for 3. There's a few of the players who've played really well in multiple tries at Vedanta. Players who have not performed well. Matty Schmidt, a little surprising. But Matty Schmidt has not been very good around Vedanta, 0 for 2. Max McGreevy, 0 for 2. Vincent Whaley, 0 for 2. You see these players with stars, that means they are alternates. Don't want to cover them until they get into the field, if they get in the field. I'm a little surprised Sam Stevens, it's only one time, but Sam Stevens, 0 for 1. Matt Wallace, winner at Corrales, which is a very, very similar style event. A coastal resort Caribbean event. He won Corrales last year, the year before, but he has struggled around Vedanta, 1 for 3. Kevin Tway, 0 for 2. He's an alternate, my apologies. Chad Ramey, 1 for 2. Another winner at Corrales, 1 for 2. Henrik Norlander, 1 for 2. Patton Gazire, 0 for 2. So there's a look at the players who haven't played as well around Vedanta. So we'll finish the show off as we always do. We'll take a quick look at the early look file for Vedanta, see where the players who have played at least twice, considering it's only been 3 years. Players who have played 2 or 3 times, what are they excelling at? See Patrick Rogers, Carson Young, they're excelling off the tee. Heavy green here. They're both putting well. Rogers is putting very well. But if we look at players who are averaging a top 40, doesn't sound great, but again, with only 2 to 3 years of data, it's pretty volatile so far until we get multiple years and the data can stabilize a little bit. 12 players, it's a little less than what I would like, but this is a 1.3 approach, 2.1, so more consistent success. In fact, look at the heavy green in the off the tee, 4.6, 4.2, whereas the approach, 4.1 is kind of lighter green. So if I bring back everybody, oh yeah, there's an 8. So Knapp last year gained 8.5. There's a 6. So there's a lot in the approach. So 4, 4.5, 4, 3.5. A lot to be gained in the approach here. In fact, there's quite a bit here in the around the green. The 0.7, but Harry Hall, Stefan Jaeger have been very good around the green here. Don't know how much that's going to really pan out. And then putting, a big deal, 1.8. I'm a little shocked to see distance not be the biggest factor for the players who have played very well in multiple tries here. I guess you could explain that by saying that everybody's taking driver. So really, like the players who are the longest of long, like Stefan Jaeger, like Toasty, Norman, Nikolai Højgaard, they're gaining a little bit of distance if they're the longest along, but everybody's hitting driver here. So there isn't a whole lot to be gained. It's what it's saying here. I don't know. That'll be interesting. I need to dig into this a little bit more tomorrow, and we'll definitely do that tomorrow on the data dive. Interesting to see that it's not a bigger factor than what I was thinking. Greens, something to maybe think about. Although these greens are large, I usually don't think about greens when the greens are large. Something that might be interesting to look at is double bogey avoidance, because bogeys are probably going to happen around Vedanta, just like they happen at Torrey Pines. The length of the course is a defense in of itself. Doesn't mean that Vedanta is difficult like Torrey, but bogeys are going to happen, so maybe double bogey avoidance is something we might want to look at. I don't know. Par 3s, all but one of these players is playing them well, so the par 3s are going to carry some pretty big significance this week. There's a 1.8. Par 4s are going to be higher just due to the nature. There's more of them. 2.6. The par 5s. 1.3. So in fact, this is one of the very rare times the par 3s are outweighing the par 5s. Par 3s are just going to be very, very important this week. I can tell you that. I'll be interested to see tomorrow where, in these ranges. Interesting that they have that par 3 at 226 on the scorecard, yet in no single round in any of the 3 years has it played over 225 on the scorecard. It's quite interesting. It's all, you can see all in here. Par 4s, as you would expect, a lot here in the 450 to 5, which is where the majority of the par 4s fall. Looks like the players that are able to take advantage of the short par 4 might be gaining a little bit as well. Par 5s, they're pretty evenly split. And in fact, they actually play one of the par 5s over 650 occasionally. So they're pretty evenly split here, but it looks like this range might be the biggest. Then lastly, 200 plus, or total procs might be something as well. 200 plus, 150, 200, or 175 to 200 maybe. Interesting. We'll have a lot to dig into tomorrow, but not bad for a first look at Vedanta. So I'll bring back everybody in the field and their performance at Vedanta in the first 3 years of its existence. Much shorter show this evening. Not a whole lot to get into with the lack of past Palom data, past Palom putting data. Might have something on that tomorrow. I know I usually keep a file about past Palom putting, or past Palom performance at least. So I might have that up tomorrow for you all. I need to add a little bit to it, I think, from the fall, the Worldwide Technologies. But again, that's going to be it for the show. Thanks to Phil for jumping in chat. I hate to hear that you weren't able to share in the success that a lot of the rest of the community did. For yours truly, it was a fantastic week with the Ludwig outright and cashing 50% of my lineup. So we're going to try and keep the momentum going as we march ever closer to the first major of the year, the Masters, which will be in about a month and a half or so. Really exciting times. The Players is coming up here soon as well, the fifth major, if you will. It happens, going to bounce back. That's the right attitude to have. Absolutely. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get you back on the right track, or at least we're gonna try to this week for Vedanta. So thanks again for jumping in chat, Phil. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. Always appreciate it. Love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Be on the lookout for the research that I will post to X tomorrow regarding previous winners and patterns of those winners for the Mexico Open. Thanks again for all the wagers you made this past week for the Genesis, for all the DFS contests you played this past week for the Genesis. And until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.